Hi everybody, it's Lee and I'm back with another tutorial video. This one is going to be how to work with white ink in Flexi Rip. And so let's get moving. So I have Flexi Rip open right now and I have my printer selected and I'm going to go over here to Job and Add Job. And once I've done that, now what I can do is choose what file I want to bring in, and I'll start with this boom vector. And here's a little shortcut right here for you. If I choose Open Job Properties, then when I bring this file in, it'll automatically open the job properties, which is really what I want to do in this case. So let's go ahead and hit Add. And immediately it's going to bring it in. You can see there's a little timer here. And once it figures out all of the artwork, there we go. So I have my artwork here. It's a little cheater thing. If I click on this guy right here, I can zoom in so I get a much larger preview of what's going on. And right now I'm set 64-inch roll. So here's all of my basic job properties as it shows you right here. My basic job properties. If I come over here to color management, under color management, this is where I can actually choose my output information. And so I have a generic self-adhesive vinyl. This is going to be a white underflood in this case. So that's going to be, in the case of the HP printers, it's going to be white and then color on top. And what media do I want is going to be generic self-adhesive vinyl. There we go. Okay. Now, here's where the important stuff comes in as it pertains to white. So I'm going to come over here to, if I go to separation, now I can see my cyan is printing as cyan, magenta, yellow, black, so on. But notice I have a channel in this file, or in this case a spot color, called white, and I specifically say this is going to print as white. Remember, I pointed that out because I'm going to come back to that in a couple of minutes and show you how to work with files where the color wasn't named properly. And I'll show you how that works. But this is under the Separations tab, which is this guy right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the next tab over, Output Channel Preview. And if I preview my output channels, so here's what'll print in cyan, here's what'll print in with magenta and yellow and black, there we go. But now if I turn all of these off, I can turn my white on, and there's my white file right there. That's my white information. Everywhere that's black here is going to print with white ink. So I can very easily see exactly what's going on. And there again is my CMYK file. So in this case, I can see that my white is all set up, and that's because in my artwork, I already had that white set to go. And I'll show you a little bit later in this video how to create white on the fly in the RIP. But we are ready to go right here. So at this point, I can hit OK. And it's ready. I don't actually have a printer set up, so I can't really send it. But typically at that point, you would send it over to the printer, assuming everything was set up properly. So that's a vector file that's ready to go. Now let's add a raster file. And I have this Flower Flexi White right here. And I'm going to go ahead and add that. Oops. And I did not go and select the job properties, but let's go in. I have my job properties set up. All right, I can zoom in here. It's a nice file. And if I come to color management, right, I'm still set up as my white underflood, which is good to go. And now if I come over to separation, my white is good. And I come over here to Output Channel Preview, and if I turn on my, I have to click Preview Output Channels, turn on my white, turn off my cyan, and there's my white channel ready to go. And then here's all of my color information, right? So again, I'm good there. I can go ahead and hit OK. Now, we talked earlier about what happens if the file was created in a different program for a different rip. So let me show you what that actually looks like. So I'm going to add, and this is the same boom file over here, but this one was set up for Onyx, which means instead of calling that white channel or that white spot color, instead of calling it white, naming it white, I named it spot 1, which is what Onyx wants. Now I bring it into Flexi, watch what happens. I'll make sure Open Job Properties is set up. Why would I do this? Well, I wouldn't do this, but if I were getting artwork from a customer, it could be that that happens, right? So now if I go to separation, so right now it says spot 1 is set to process, which means it'll actually print that green color that I assigned the preview inside Illustrator in this case. So what I need to do is come over here, and before I do that, let me show you what happens with the output channel preview, right? If I show my white here, wait for that clock to finish, look, no white at all. And the reason for that is exactly what we said, because I don't have this set up properly to be white. So if I click on this color here, and then I go to edit, now what I can do is the channel called spot 1, what I want to do is print it as white. And I can now hit OK. Nothing changes in the preview, but if I go back over here, now watch. Now there's my white channel, and there's my CMYK. Okay, so that's how you work with a file that may have been designed with another rip in mind, so that you can bring it into Flexi and still use those colors as they were intended, which is, in this case, to print white. So I'll hit OK there. Okay, now earlier I talked about what to do if your file doesn't contain white ink information at all. So let's tackle that right now. So I'm going to go over to Job here, Add Job, and I'm going to choose this image right here that does not contain any white information at all. It's just a 4-color job. And I'll open Job Properties so that we can see this. Go to Add, and let's zoom in. Actually, I think if I do Page Preview, I can get it full screen or full screen enough. And now if I come over here, if I come over here, we can see that I do have a white mode, white underflood. But if I go over here to separation, notice there is no white. And if I come over here, preview my output channels, turn on my white, I get nothing. So now watch this. This is kind of cool. If I come over here to white type, okay, and this is here under your printer options. So if I go to white type here, right now it's set to spot color. That's the default mode. It means that there's a spot color that's been applied in the file. That was my Illustrator file. That was my Photoshop file. But I have some other options available, and I'm going to go through each of these to show you what they are and also some potential pitfalls along the way. So the first one here is going to be substrate. Substrate is going to fill this entire board or this art box. And so if I come back over here, there it is. So I have a solid fill of white. In the case of this particular artwork, that's probably exactly what I want. I want to be, full white coverage. But now let's explore some of the others. Okay, so the first one is undercolor. Undercolor is going to print everywhere that there is color. But watch what happens. Why is this? Because these areas right here do not have any ink at all. There is no color. It is pure white, no CMYK at all. This area right here, a little bit of a shadow, which is why I'm starting to get the fuzz that's eventually going solid. Okay, so that's one of the potential pitfalls, especially when you're working with photography, where you might have some actual white areas, or for that matter, even a vector art file, where I have pure white area, no ink at all being laid down. It means no white ink will also be laid down. Now, if I come over here, I can choose fill color. This is kind of cool. If I come back over here, we can see what's going on. It's kind of neat. So the way this works is the lighter the color of my artwork, the more ink gets laid down, which is why I have very solid coverage here. And if I look at this pencil, which is, right about a quarter of the way here, if I go back over to my artwork, that's a black pencil. So you see I get no white ink there. It's kind of an interesting effect. It may or may not work for your particular application. You need to keep track of what it is that you want to accomplish. Next here is variable under. Variable under, if I come back over here, this is the other direction. So variable under, right? Notice that this is white. This is no white ink. This is a black pencil. This is solid white ink here. Remember, I'm looking at the white file here. So this is exactly opposite of the previous one. This is going to put white in the darker areas and less white in the lighter areas. And then the last one here is fill no substrate, which is going to be exactly the opposite of the first one that we did. That was not, that's going to be fill no substrate. In this case, going to be very unimpressive and kind of weird, right? So those are your modes, and those will probably get you where you need to be. Typically, if I'm going to be creating white on the fly in the rip, I'm probably going to choose substrate, right? And substrate is going to look, like that, just a solid rectangle around my art box. Okay. Now, while I'm here, we do see this option right here, which is Smart Chokes. So this is specific to the HP printers that do white. And actually, this is specifically for the 700 white and 800 white. The R series does not give you this option. But the Smart Choke, the drop size of white ink is a little bit bigger than the drop size of the colored ink. It's just a little bit bigger, and so what happens is if I keep my white and my color exactly the same size where I have edges, the white ink will just sneak out just a little bit around the edges. So what Choke does is it actually shrinks in the white ink just in the areas where there's edges. And the Smart Chokes means if there's only white, like maybe up here, it only white, there might not be any color there. It won't shrink those areas, only where color and white actually overlap. It'll shrink it in a little bit. How much? 3 pixels is usually a good starting point. And I always recommend people test that out because it can depend on the print mode that you have, how that actually works. Okay, but while I'm in there, I figure that's a good opportunity to show that. And at this point, I hit OK, and then my job is ready to go. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is how to work with sandwich mode. Sandwich mode is where I have color, then white, then I have color again. Typically, that's going to be used for a day-night application. So front lit during the day and then backlit at night. So you want that white in between 2 layers. When it's front lit, you're going to have just the 1 layer of color that's visible. Looks great during the day. And then when you backlight, you get that extra hit of color so that it doesn't wash out. So let me show you the way that works. So I'm going to add a job here, and I'll bring this boom file in. I like it. I'm not going to turn on open job properties, and you'll see why that is in a bit. But I'm going to go ahead and hit add. And once this finishes processing, then the next step I'm going to do, and this is kind of cool, if you recall in my file I had layers, so I'm going to split job by layers. So I just right clicked on this and then split job by layers. And when I do that, I'm given some options here. So here's my one layer called color artwork, and here's a second layer that I've called white in the file. And as you see, color artwork, print as colors front, doesn't really matter front back in this case, and this one is white, print as white. Now if I had set this up as 3 separate layers so that I actually have another layer of color on there, then this would be automatic, but typically I'm not going to do this, especially when I'm just duplicating this job. Same image front and back. So I'm going to hit OK, and it will automatically create now a multiple layered file, right? 2 separate layers. Now if I go right back in and right click this, I can separate layer job. So now I have color art, I have white. Now watch, I'm going to do this again with the original, right? Here's my original file, split job by layers, and I have to do this a second time so that I get that other color layer. And I can actually just turn off, no, I can't turn off white. So I'll get an extra. And there it is again. Again, I'm going to separate the layer job. And now I have color, white, and color. And because these are all contiguous, I can just hold down I can click on color art, hold down shift, and hit the second one to choose the 3. If they were out of order, if there were files between or anything like that, if I hold down the control key as I click around, I can select the 3 that I need to. And at that point, what I'm going to do is come over here to create layer job. And once I choose create layer job, here's where I get to choose color artwork. So color, print as color, white, print as white, and then color again, print as color. And you see I have front, white, and back. So I'm going to hit OK there. Once I've done that, now I can go into my job properties, and you see here it shows 3 layers. If I come over to my color correction, here's where I can choose a sandwich mode, right? So I choose white sandwich, choose the appropriate material, self-adhesive vinyl, and notice that the color mode here is CMYK white CMYK. That's actually how we know that this is a color mode, a sandwich mode. So I have this set up. This is all set. Now watch. If I come over here now, I have my layers, and here I can zoom in a little. I can see, I can turn things on and off. So here's my first layer, and then my white, and then my second layer, right? And realistically, usually I'm going to do this as a second surface, so I would actually want to flip everything around so that it's mirrored. But in this case, just to make it easier to read and whatnot, I'll keep it like this, and I can still, oops. Notice I don't have my how do I handle white, right? I'm missing an icon here, right? Where I can actually see the individual channels, because this is how it's done now, is with this layers. So at this point I can hit OK. And now my job is all set up. Generic self-adhesive vinyl, sandwich mode 160. So I'm set to go. And I can see 3 layers. It's tough really to see just because of the artwork that I have, but you can see just a little bit of lightning bolt over here. So at that point, I have my job, color, white color. It's all set to go. All I need to do is send it to the printer, and it will print color, then white, then color, all one shot through the printer, and everything will be great. So that's how to handle white inside Flexi. I hope this has been helpful to you. And as always, please reach out to me through the comments in the video, or contact me through a variety of other means. I'm not hard to find. Hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.